Yo, what is good people, Ben from Lover of Tech, and we are back with another camera comparison, this time Z Fold 4 versus the S22 Ultra. We still wanted the Ultra camera hardware on the Fold, but we got the S22 Plus, and with the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, how close can we get to the Ultra experience on the Galaxy S22 Ultra when it comes to the camera? So we're going to test it. Daylight, low light, photos and videos. So sit back, relax, it's going to be a good one.
A quick rundown of the camera hardware specs on both these devices. Z Fold 4 is using a 12 megapixel ultra wide at the back, 50 megapixel main, and a 10 megapixel 3x optical zoom with a 10 megapixel selfie camera on the cover display. Moving over to the S22 Ultra, it is using a quad camera system at the back with a 108 megapixel main, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and two 10 megapixel zoom at 3x and 10x, and a 40 megapixel selfie. Main description of all the specs for the camera will be in the description below. Let's get into the main camera test.
So we're starting with the front-facing selfie camera, 4K UHD 60 frames a second, seeing how the stabilization, image quality, and dynamic range is like. Quick run. So we've switched now to 4K UHD 30 frames a second, seeing how the image quality, stabilization, and the dynamic range is like. Quick run. Now we're in the video portrait mode for the selfie on the S22 Ultra and the Z Fold 4. Just seeing how the image quality looks like. We've now gone into 4K 30 frames a second on the rear cameras. Just seeing how the image quality, stabilization, and dynamic range looks like. Quick run. Switching to the ultra wide. Quick run. Let's compare the 3x zoom. Then we've got the 10x optical on the Ultra. We're going to the 10x optical. Back to the main. While still continuing recording, you can of course go into the selfie, still in 4K frames a second, take pictures and pause and continue recording. Very seamless recording experience. And that is on the Z Fold 4 as well. So we're now 4K UHD 60 frames a second on the main camera lenses. Again, just seeing how the image quality, stabilization, and dynamic range looks like. Quick run. Now stopping recording, we've switched to 4K UHD 60 frames a second on the ultra wide lens on the S22 Ultra, which is a limitation on the Galaxy Z Fold 4, and that is at the time of this recording, 18th of August 2022, 12 PM UK time. We've switched to 4K UHD 60 frames a second on both the 3x optical zoom on the S22 Ultra and the Z Fold 4, which is available, which is great to see. So we switched to the 10x optical zoom, the periscope zoom on the S22 Ultra, and showcasing it next to the 10x digital zoom on the 3x optical on the Z Fold 4 in 4K UHD 60 frames a second. Showcasing 8K 24 frames a second. Now that the Z Fold 4 does have the same 50 megapixel sensor as found on the S22 and S22 Plus, we do now have 8K 24 frames a second. Debatable how usable it is, but at least we do have 8K capability on a foldable. So we are now testing 4K UHD 30 frames a second on the rear camera on the main sensors, just seeing how it behaves with a subject in the frame. We've now switched to the ultra wide angle lens, still in 4K UHD, 30 frames a second. So we are now testing out 4K UHD 60 frames a second on the rear camera, main sensors, seeing how they behave when a subject is in the frame. So we are now in the video portrait mode on the main rear sensors, just seeing how they behave when a subject is in frame. So we're in the low light video recording mode, 4K UHD 30 frames a second, S22 Ultra versus Z Fold 4. Testing ultra wide. Back to the main camera. So, selfie video, 4K 30 frames a second in low light.
Let's kick things off with the daytime landscape shots, starting off with the ultra wide. It does look like the S22 Ultra is producing an overall sharper and more detailed image, while the Fold 4 yields much better shadow detail and a more vibrant image. When moving over to the main wide sensor, things even out in the detail and sharpness on both phones, but the Fold 4 still pushes better shadow detail and a more vibrant image, although still maintaining a slightly more vibrant image on the Fold 4. When moving over to the 3x zoom, I still prefer the overall look on the S22 Ultra. Moving over to the 10x zoom, since the S22 Ultra has a dedicated optical lens at this range, it does produce a much better image. This also carries over to the 30x zoom as well as the far extended 100x zoom, which is only available on the S22 Ultra. These last set of landscape shots pull the same consistent results from before. The ultra wide on the Fold 4 does have less detail and is softer, but produces a much more vibrant image and better shadow detail, as the benches on the left side are much more visible on the Fold 4. The wide sensors are close to the same, with the Fold 4 pulling ahead with better shadow detail. From here onwards, it's the S22 Ultra all the way, as it really shows just how good the zoom performance is at 3x all the way up to 100x. Both phones produce great selfies, but overall I do prefer the look of the S22 Ultra even when moving over to portrait mode. Last set of daytime shots with the rear cameras with me as the subject. The performance of the ultra wide is very much the same on both, with a very slight vibrance boost on the Fold 4. The image from the main wide sensor is preferred on the Fold 4 this time around. Portrait mode at 1x looks to be doing a better job on the S22 Ultra, with the 3x portrait mode looking slightly better on the Fold 4. Let's move over to low light photos, and starting with the ultra wide, the S22 Ultra is definitely producing a cleaner image with less noise and more detail. The main wide sensor holds well on both, but I do prefer the slightly more vibrant, warmer look on the Fold 4. Although there is slightly more noise, overall zoom performance is better on the S22 Ultra. This extreme low light situation, by the teeth and hair, maybe just maybe the ultra wide on the S22 Ultra is brighter, but again, not visible or usable. The main wide sensor is slightly brighter on the S22 Ultra as well. The real difference maker is when night mode is used, and this is especially more evident when using it on the main wide sensor on both devices. For low light selfies, I captured without night mode and with night mode, and then with front screen flash, and then pretty much did the same for portrait mode as well. So definitely take a look at the results and let me know what you think in the comment section below. These last set of low light photos with the rear cameras with me as the subject, from the ultra wide to the main wide sensor, and with and without night mode, both perform near enough the same, but I do prefer the more warmer tones produced on the Z Fold 4. Summarizing the video performance, with the daytime selfie, both are almost on par with each other, shooting the same resolutions and frame rates with excellent video stabilization and detail, but the color tones on the Fold 4 are much more preferred. Video on the rear cameras are almost leveled at the same performance, with the only drawback at the current time is not having the ability to record in 4K 60 frames a second for the ultra wide camera on the Fold 4. When using the rear cameras with me as the subject, I do prefer the look produced on the S22 Ultra. For nighttime video, I highly recommend sticking to the main wide sensor for the best results. The S22 Ultra does look a bit cleaner for low light video on the rear cameras. Low light selfie video looks cleaner on the S22 Ultra, but at the cost of a softer image with slightly more detail on the Fold 4. Microphone audio performance is excellent on both and performs to my ears the same. That is it with this ultimate camera comparison between the Z Fold 4 and the S22 Ultra. Let me know your thoughts and if you were surprised by any of the results produced here in this camera comparison. That's it for me, Ben from Lover of Tech. If you enjoy videos like this, you know exactly what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're part of Team TLS, the Tech Lover Squad, so you don't miss any future videos on the channel. I hope you're all safe during this time. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.